Hey guys, welcome back. It's awesome to be back to normal, recording videos for you again after we had that little bit of a break last week. So let's get into it. April 17th, 1961, the Bay of Pigs invasion begins when the CIA financed and trained group of Cuban refugees lands in Cuba and attempts to topple the communist government of Fidel Castro. All right. So this is right in the middle of the Cold War. Right? The Bay of Pigs invasion was orchestrated by my fave, JFK. Although, unfortunately, as you will learn when we do our Cold War unit, it is a total failure and a complete embarrassment for JFK. It's all right. No one's perfect. All right. But really it was just an attempt to try to overthrow the communist government because we were scared that communism was inching closer and closer to the United States. Right? Cuba is less than 100 miles off the coast of the US, so it was a bit too close for comfort for the United States and JFK. But we will talk more about this when we do our Cold War unit. Right. Before we talk about our lesson, we do have two birthdays that we missed while we were away from these videos. So let's do that first. Okay, so I would like to wish a very happy belated birthday to Emily and Allison. Emily on the 11th and Allison on the 12th. I hope you girls had the best birthdays. Right? Miss you. All right, now let's get into the work. Okay, so last week you guys had that little poster project where you had to pick two of those 8 civil rights events and create posters about them, really detailing what was the event all about, including pictures and clip art if you wanted to really let your creativity go with that, while still informing the reader, me, about what the event was all about. Right. This week we're a little bit more back on track in terms of actual lessons about the civil rights movement. So just to recap from now 2 weeks ago when we last had our lessons, right, we were talking about how in the United States during this time period that we noticed that while African Americans are granted legal rights with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, we're finding that separate but equal is legal in the United States and it's running rampant. And that's the idea that it's okay to segregate or separate based on race as long as you're providing equal facilities and equal services for both racial groups. Right? But we know that's not happening, right? African Americans are getting poorer facilities, they're being treated poorly, they're not getting the same level of service or buildings or treatment as whites are. And then we talked about how African Americans start to turn to protest in order to bring attention to the injustices that are being done, right? And to cause for a push for change. Right? And then finally we spoke about 2 civil rights leaders that rose to the forefront of the civil rights movement and helped to organize people in their protest, right? Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, where we had Martin Luther King Jr. focused more on nonviolent protest, right? He had this outlook of what was known as civil disobedience, meaning to when you are civil, right, you act right, you're calm, you're more controlled, and to disobey something is to go against. So yes, break laws that are unjust or unfair, but do so in a calm and civilized manner. So he would have gone for protests, sit-in, marches, right, where yes, you are acknowledging that these laws are wrong, we're breaking those laws, but we're not doing it in a violent way. Whereas Malcolm X was much more aggressive, and hopefully you guys picked up on that in the readings about things that he would say, that he saw whites as the enemy, essentially. He said, if they're going to treat us like this, they're not our brother, like Martin Luther King would say, right? He would say, we're all humans, we're all the same at our core, right? You need to fight injustice with love. And he would say, and Malcolm X would totally disagree with that and say, no, if they're going to treat us like this, we need to come back 10 times harder and 10 times more aggressive, right? So you have 2 totally different viewpoints on how to handle the civil rights movement. So now that we see people starting to recognize the problems in society and start to push for change, we're going to see people take actual steps forward. And the first way to make those changes is through laws. And what we're going to look at specifically is changes in laws in education, right? Because that's going to be incredibly important, specifically with one of the most groundbreaking Supreme Court cases in U.S. history, and that is Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas, shortened to Brown versus the Board. Hopefully you guys have heard of that before, and if not, then I'm excited for you to read about it because it is extremely interesting and really groundbreaking, right? The things that these people set forth to do. So what you're going to do is you're going to read a little bit of background information, right? What's going on that's leading up to the court case and what causes Mr. Brown to file a lawsuit. Right? You're going to read a little bit about Linda, who is the girl that is at the center of the Brown versus the Board of Education court case. Then you're going to read about the legal arguments that are being made, right? Thurgood Marshall is going to be the lawyer for Mr. Brown. You're going to read about what is he saying is the law that's being broken here, right? What are they suing the Board of Education for doing illegally? All right, and then, I don't want you to see, you're going to read about what's the decision that's being made, all right? How does the Supreme Court rule in Brown versus the Board of Education? Right? And then down here, right, that's your aim. How does the Supreme Court rule on segregation in schools in the South? And then you have this graphic organizer here, right? Each block of the graphic organizer goes along with one of the three sources. Right? So you have the background, you have the legal arguments, and you have the decision. Please make sure that you are using specific pieces of information. Right? Brown versus the Board of Education, guys, is an extremely, I don't know if I can say extremely any more times, important court case, and you are going to need to know it, not just for this year, but moving forward, right? Brown versus the Board of Education really breaks the barrier in terms of school segregation, and it sets the stage for other groundbreaking decisions, right? There is no exit card for this one. So another thing that I'd like to do, right? Again, I always love when you guys stop by my Google Meets and I get to see you, and that's really awesome. But of course, I am always looking for new ways to connect with all of you. I know a lot of the times you guys don't stop by because either, you feel awkward being on camera with everyone there, or maybe your sleep schedule is totally off and you are not awake yet when we're doing them, or maybe you don't have any questions or whatever that be. But I miss all of you, right? It's amazing to get to touch base with the 12 kids that show up every single time, but I want to hear from all of you. I want to see your faces because I miss you. I've talked about that a lot. That's the hardest part of all this for me, is not seeing you guys and not talking to you guys every day. So what I'm trying is something new here. So I set up a Flipgrid. Hopefully you guys have used this before in some of your other classes, so you'll know how to do it. But basically it is a website that allows me to ask you questions and for you guys to record a video answering them, right? So I gave you instructions here on how to log into Flipgrid. So it says click on the link on the second page, which I'll scroll down to in a minute. It says you'll be prompted to sign in with your Microsoft email. Students should log in using their East Meadow School District email. So your Microsoft email is the .us one, but if I did it right, I think I authorized your .org also, so both of them should work. But if you try with your Google one and it's not working, then the Microsoft one definitely will. It says once logged in, you will be on the check-in with Miss Betcher page. And then scrolling down, you should click on the check-in number 1 topic. I put number 1 because if this works out and you guys like it, or I like it, then I'm going to do them a little bit more often, And then read the topic describing the reflection process. After you've chosen a reflection question, there's a list below that I'll read in a second, and are ready to respond. You should tap on the green plus to start the recording process, and the recording process is described below. I gave you a little step-by-step instruction here, but very important. I made sure to bold, underline, and put in red that all pictures, recordings, and responses should be appropriate. Remember, this is going to your teacher, please and thank you. All right, if I wouldn't be happy with you doing it in class, you should not be doing it in this little recording All right, and when I say picture, if you guys have never done a Flipgrid before, when you're done recording, it asks you to take a selfie, and you can add like little fun like clippies and things and decorations to it. So appropriate. Thank you. Okay, so here are your question choices. I'm asking you to answer at least one of the questions below, but if you're feeling a little chatty and you're up to it, answer more than one question. I don't mind. I'll sit here and listen to them, you know. So my first is option 1 is learning something new about you. If you could invite any person, dead or alive, to dinner, who would it be and why? Literally any person that you can think of appropriate that you would want to come to dinner, and why would you want to have dinner with that person? All the feels. What is your favorite memory from class this year and why? You know I'm an emotional memory person, so tell me, right? What is your favorite memory? Because maybe it's something that I also shared, or maybe it's something that I didn't realize you guys found especially important or memorable, and of course I always look for stuff like that. It's all about the memories. Option 3 is TikTok famous. Show me your favorite appropriate TikTok dance and give me a tutorial. I have been spending a lot of my free time perusing through TikTok, and in talking to some of you, I've heard that that's the thing that's keeping you sane, and you're learning TikTok dances or you're recording TikToks, so teach me something new. And then option 4 is looking into the future. What are you most looking forward to doing once this is all over? Right, tell me about it. Why are you looking forward to doing that? You know, just a little something something for me to know about you guys. Right? And then here is the link that you can click on to bring you to the Flipgrid. Right? When you go, right, it'll look essentially like this, right? It'll say check-in number 1, and there's my little meme because I miss you. And it gives you a little information about what you're supposed to do, and then you would record a response. For you guys, it'll literally be like a giant plus sign down here that you'll see, and you just click on that to record, okay? So that should be everything. As always, none of this is due until the following Thursday, so that's like this coming Thursday, all right? I think that's everything. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and of course, as always, stay safe and make good choices. Bye, guys.